For some South Australians, it's virtual reality that's too close to reality.
Today's story isn't about some global megacorp of a publisher. It's not about loot boxes or microtransactions. It's more of what you could call a human interest story. I'm certainly interested in the humans involved, and I'm interested in the fact that this started off as a fabricated story full of nothing.
The violent Adelaide video games causing outrage. City and suburban settings, players able to gun down and run down.
You will become more inclined to behave aggressively.
And SA police under attack.
Quite. A fabricated story full of nothing that once run through the Jimquisition machine becomes a substantive story full of something. And it's about skullduggery, misrepresentation, and my personal favourite topic, capital arseholes. Let's enjoy!
Well, South Australian police are investigating taking legal action against the developers of new violent video games that will be set on the streets of Adelaide. The variations of Grand Theft Auto will allow gamers to go on shooting rampages and assume the role of uniformed officers.
A news report warns its viewers about a wave of new violent video games that could bring crime and chaos to a city plagued by the corrupting influence of Grand Theft Auto. It's a classic piece of sensationalised tabloid fearmongering that began in the 90s and reached its peak in the mid-2000s before dying down considerably, replaced by fears concerning mobile phones, social media and online entertainment. Oh, and something about nuclear war. This particular news report, however, is not from the mid-2000s, back when Fox was calling Mass Effect pornography and the Daily Mail was crying, "Ban this sick filth." This particular report, courtesy of 9 News Adelaide, was published in April 2017 and is predominantly concerned about a new Grand Theft Auto variation set in South Australia's capital city. Now, if you're wondering why you've never heard of a GTA spin-off set in Adelaide, that's because it doesn't exist. In fact, despite this news report being titled Grand Theft Adelaide, it doesn't feature a single screenshot, trailer, or indeed any promotional material for any official Grand Theft Auto work. What it does feature, however, is a game that has absolutely no connection to GTA whatsoever, a completely unconnected independent game named P-Platers. Described by its lead developer Liam Keenan as an Aussie GTA-style open-world game, P-Platers is still in development and attempting to recreate the city of Adelaide as accurately as possible. For big-budget video games, this is nothing new. The Getaway reconstructed London in 2002, while Ubisoft has set its Watch Dogs games in both Seattle and San Francisco. Hang on, that's not right. Hold on. 9 News Adelaide, if you're watching this, this is called research, so pay attention. Oh yeah, Watch Dogs was set in Chicago. It's Infamous Second Son that was set in Seattle. Amazing what a cursory bit of research can show you. For an indie developer, recreating Adelaide is no small task, but it's a task that got significantly more difficult when 9 News discovered an outdated prototype version of the game and insisted on showing it to people in the street.
North Terrace, Adelaide. A car runs down pedestrians before the driver starts shooting bystanders. For some South Australians, it's virtual reality that's too close to reality.
It's absolutely dreadful. There's plenty of other things you can make up without having it be a real-life city.
I think we've got enough violence on our streets now, don't you?
While we can all laugh at some frankly terrible-looking pre-alpha footage being called too close to reality by a pearl-clutching crime reporter, what's less funny is the allegation that better footage existed and 9 News Adelaide allegedly refused to use it. This is just one of the misleading, irresponsible and uninformed things 9 News appears to have done in its attempt to portray Adelaide as a city city under virtual siege. For Keenan, the shit show began when he saw a TV commercial for Channel 9 News hyping up a report for the next evening. What he saw, he tells me, was obsolete footage from an old build of his game edited in amongst footage of a modified Grand Theft Auto that had Australian cops added to it. According to Keenan, 9 News Adelaide wanted to make his game look, and I quote, as unappealing as possible, and he claims they refused to use more current footage even when it was offered. They also refused to give any sort of credit for the footage they were using, further making it look like the game was connected to Grand Theft Auto somehow. Now, it may appear to be a small blessing that the report didn't name-check the game or Liam Keenan specifically, yet I have a feeling altruism wasn't the motivating factor.
9 News has also uncovered pictures of other South Australian landmarks to be incorporated into the game, including the Monopara Shopping Centre and the Festival Plaza. There's also a South Australian police car, an Adelaide bus, and the inside of a train.
Oh my god, the inside of a train? I mean, I thought P-Platers was harmless, but I didn't realise that the trains had insides! If you watch the report, you'll note that they keep the source of these games especially vague, because if they were to mention that their entire report is based on an independent game that they found ancient footage of on some random fucking message board, the whole thing suddenly has a lot less bite. The report itself was clueless and, in addition, utterly tasteless, as we can see here, where the reporter connects video games to recent-day terrorist attacks. No, seriously, check it out.
The game uncovered just days after the London terror attack that killed 4 innocent people, and 2 months after the tragedy at Bourke Street Mall in Melbourne.
Now, I'd imagine most decent-minded people would call the appropriation of these attacks in such a manner utterly fucking disgusting, but I can only speak for myself, and personally I think the appropriation of these attacks in such a manner are utterly fucking disgusting. The report suggests that Adelaide police are concerned about games like P-Platers, though comments from the city's police minister are abruptly cropped and robbed of any worthwhile context. Meanwhile, the report cites but doesn't show a strongly worded statement suggesting Liam Keenan's team are under police scrutiny, though if the police are investigating P-Platers, Liam Keenan certainly doesn't fucking know about it.
In a strongly worded statement, South Australian police have told us that any depiction of their officers in the video games could be a breach of state or federal law, and that their lawyers will be closely scrutinising the content.
We don't want young people getting an uninformed or strange view about what police do for our community.
Mr. Minister, what about uninformed and strange views about citizens within that community who are creating artwork based on said community? The kind you'll find in this shitty little news report you're in. For those taking stock, so far we have a news station misrepresenting the way a game looks, creating their own controversy by taking an outdated build from an old forum and showing it to random people on the street, falsely suggesting direct links to Grand Theft Auto, mentioning tragic terror attacks as a tasteless aside, and involving local police for no justifiable reason whatsoever. And this is all before we get to the best bit. The fact that these so-called reporters, so-called investigating a story they practically fabricated, don't actually seem to understand what the fuck Grand Theft Auto actually is. You see, when Liam was contacted by Channel 9, he attempted to stress a number of things. Firstly, that his game in its current build state, not the old version Channel 9 insisted on using, contained absolutely no violence and could only really be called a walking and driving simulator until more gameplay elements could be added. Secondly, Keenan tried his utmost to explain, both on the phone and via Facebook Messenger, that he had no connection to Grand Theft Auto itself, and that asking him questions about a major video game corporation he had nothing to do with wouldn't be very productive. He suggested they contact Rockstar Games, which, you know, makes sense for anybody doing a news report on Rockstar's games and their supposed variants. The response from 9 News Adelaide? Who are Rockstar Games? Who are Rockstar Games? One of the most famous game developers in the world, the fucking studio that made Grand Theft Auto, and this news organisation somehow had never heard of them. For anyone covering video games to any serious degree, any professional context, that ought to be a statistical impossibility, but here we are, Channel 9 News Adelaide, doing the fucking unthinkable and talking about GTA as an alleged reporter without knowing what the fuck a Rockstar Games is. Makes you wonder how much research they actually did, if any at all. Did they simply stumble upon a local game developer's work, realise it looked a bit like GTA with local architecture, and attempt a hit piece based solely on that sliver of material without bothering to do any sort of research at all? In my opinion, yeah, pretty fucking much. If I were to look at all of this information, my assessment would be yes, that's what they did. My assessment would be Channel 9 News Adelaide neither cared nor bothered to do even the most cursory research and published a hit piece about GTA-inspired games while not even knowing who the fuck Rockstar is. For all the memes and bullshit about fake news, I'm not sure it gets much faker than that outside of outright fiction.
We asked the creator of one of the games to respond to the concerns, but he chose to make no comment.
Even with its closing line, the report cannot help being bollocks, as Keenan did in fact comment to 9 News. He spoke with the channel's clueless senior producer via Facebook Messenger and on the phone with a man he describes as 50-ish sounding and really angry. A man who grilled the developer on these GTA games that he had nothing to bloody do with. Rather than decline to comment, as 9 News alleges, it suggested instead that 9 News didn't want to hear any comment since they had their story already and weren't interested in conflicting information. The result all this had on Liam Keenan, he tells me, was devastating. While the P-Platers team joked about the report's cluelessness on Facebook, behind closed doors they felt fucking terrible. Keenan says his mental health was damaged, hardly surprising when you find yourself the target of a TV stitch-up job, and that the report even had a negative impact on his personal life. As a former architecture student, Keenan had proudly showed off the in-game city he'd been building to his lecturers. After the report went out, Keenan alleges, his lecturers' high opinions of him took a rapid nosedive. In addition, a local newspaper jumped on the bandwagon, this time actively naming the game as P-Platers. At the very least, the paper showed more integrity by featuring comments from Keenan, who explained that he felt misrepresented and even promised to remove anything people found offensive from the game, such as Adelaide police cars, despite their inclusion being allowable under copyright. I just wanted to show the world how awesome I think Adelaide is, Keenan told reporters. And for that crime, 9 News Adelaide saw fit to punish him. After looking into the game myself, checking out the history of the team behind it, I don't think I see any bad people. No glorifiers of violence, nobody setting out to put local police in danger. Hell, from a personal standpoint, they seem like legitimately nice folks. And their game looks rough right now, but it may be a wonderful little recreation of Adelaide one day. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be a terrible game, but you know what? That's my job to look into. That's for people like us to judge, we smug game pundit wankers who sneer at games from atop our high horses, but at least we play them before we sneer at them, and our sneering is based on their merits as games, not as villains cast in a falsified drama masquerading as news. There was no story here for Channel 9. There was no news. 3 young people made a little open-world action game in their free time. Some cynical piece of shit found it and decided to tell Adelaide that their city was under fire and their police force undermined. You know, some indie folks don't like me for how critical I can be of their work and their attitude. Some would go so far as to claim I am a bully. But I sleep happily at night knowing I haven't done to any developer what 9 News Adelaide did. We asked 9 News Adelaide to respond to the concerns, but they chose to make no comment. Jim Sterling, Jimquisition. You know, I was just in the bath, and I couldn't stop thinking about the path less taken. On January 20th, the Jackson Hideaway. A very special guest is going to be there. Can you guess who? No, it's not that lovely boy zombie dragon over there, it's... well, it's me. It's me. It's me. It's me! It's Stardust. What was I on that night? Stardust, everybody! What a wacky character. I wonder what he'll get up to next. Anyway, while we're on the topic of self-promotion / admin, the Horrid Spider contest is now done. As of this episode, the deadline is over. Stop sending them in. We had a ton of entries, some shockingly talented ones. It's hard to pick a winner, but we'll have that for you next week.
Life's good when you're a ninja block.
As far as today's story goes, well, what a disappointment. I personally believe in the news. I think that the news is important, especially in this day and age. We should have good, reliable news media. But then we get certain little local stations, so devoid of something interesting to say, so choked by their own pedestrian vocation that they're resorting to shit like this just to make their careers a little more interesting.
Here's a TV that looks like an apple.
What I also find interesting is that apparently it were the police who requested that P-Platers not get referenced in the story. So it's not like Channel 9 doesn't know how to listen to people's requests before they run a story. They just pick and choose whose requests they listen to.
Here's a TV that looks like...
SA police under attack, sparking an investigation.
Besides which, the police didn't tell them to keep saying we've uncovered this footage, we've uncovered this game just days after a terrorist attack, so that you make it all sound nice and vague, nice and GTA-ish. You tits. You capital arseholes.
Life's good when you're...
The violent Adelaide video games causing outrage.
And you know what? Some people do call me the bully, and that's fine, because that's a role I can play quite happily. And I will admit, I get a sense of joy knowing that small bullies wake up on Monday mornings to find that a bigger bully has discovered them. And they learn, as others learn, that Monday is coming. And it's not like I didn't give them a chance to respond. I gave them 3 chances. I contacted the station, I contacted their crime reporter, I even sent the senior producer the same snotty question he sent the developer of P-Platers, Liam Keenan, but not one of them decided to get back to me. So that bit at the end wasn't just me being snidey, it was me being, what 9 News Adelaide is unfamiliar with, truthful. Thank God for me, and fuck the rest of those capital arseholes out there. I'm calling people capital arseholes now, it's a thing I'm doing. Bye!